Mai haere mai ki tēnei hui o te kaunihera o Rotorua. Welcome everyone and welcome to this meeting of the Rotorua Lakes Council. We are in day 7 of our long-term plan hearings. Just a reminder that this is all being live streamed, so please have your mobile phones on silent. And we do have an apology for lateness from Councillor Waru, who is just on his way from an appointment. Before we start today, I'll just open this up with a prayer with the karakia. Tūtaua mai I runga, tūtaua mai I raro. Tūtaua mai I roto, tūtaua mai I waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, haumie, huie, tae hie. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to welcome our first submitter for the day, Mike Gallagher. Okay, welcome guys. Now you will have 5 minutes for your submission and there will just be a timer here as well, so you can help to keep track of that time. And elected members, this is a verbal submission, so you won't find it in your list of submissions. Yep. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Over to you. Good morning.
Yep. Kia ora everyone, councillors and mayor. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be able to speak. It's really good to be here. I'm just going to go through some key bullet points. You would have received my letter and the report that has been written in previous years. That would have given you a good overview of the holiday rental sector from a motelier's point of view and a community point of view. And so I'm just going to go through these bullet points. Just for clarifications, I've got 2 motels here and also own a couple of houses here. Bryce Smart, he's got Rotorua Motel and also in the holiday sector rental market with renting out houses. So I'm just going to get straight to the point here. Airbnb did not start tourism here in Rotorua. And the same goes for Airbnb did not bring 800 to 1,000 homes to the tourism industry. They took 800 to 1,000 homes from our community. I want to also point out that it's only about 10 to 12 days of the year that Rotorua is undersupplied for accommodation. So those are the times when there's a peak event happening and people are having to stay in Taupo, Rotorua, Rotorua. And for about 2 months of the year, it's about right. So those are the months around about end of December, January, up to about mid-February. And the remainder of the year, Rotorua is oversupplied in accommodation, resulting in challenges for obtaining tariffs to a good price point as a result of strong competition. The commercial accommodation sector is a key part of the tourism ecosystem here in Rotorua, and this is fractured. And as a result, this has been attracting the wrong investors in recent years. Don't get me wrong, Airbnb is an awesome offering. Airbnb is an awesome product offering. We use it for both our commercial and house operations, but it must be a level playing field and guidelines introduced so that the same standards are met by all short-term accommodation operators that commercial are expected to adhere to. It's not about us short-term. This is about the future of our city and for it to be vibrant for all communities, members to live, work and do business in. We need to attract good business people to the city, business people that are community focused and really good at their job. This will only happen if there is a clear mandate from Council having implemented the correct triggers and regulations to encourage high-value investors to come to town, but just as important, to encourage investors to stay in our city. If a property is advertising on an OTA and third-party holiday accommodation platform for greater than 30 days and it looks and smells like a business, then the appropriate triggers need to be pulled to create that level playing field. This will ensure that they are fully in the tourism sector and become part of the ecosystem and meet guidelines and standards to ensure that the visitor to Rotorua is well taken care of. As a result of doing the right thing, I'm 100% confident that the community will finally have more houses to choose from to rent and live, and potentially even help towards bringing rent down. I'm sure you all heard a snippet on the radio yesterday that the Bay Plenty average rent is actually higher than Auckland as of yesterday. This decision you are making has far-reaching implications than just tourism. It's about business confidence. It's about the revitalisation of our city, including the Fenton Street Gateway entrance. And most importantly, it's about being fair to our community that actually live here. They need to be first priority, not these that come for a couple of days. I was going to ask for questions, but it's my understanding that you don't have any. So I'll hand it, if Bryce wants to say something.
You've finished.
Yeah, I'm done, thank you very much.
Is there anything you wanted to quickly mention?
From a motelier perspective, there we go. I'm not sure how well yourselves understand the motel world, but from 2015-2020, equivalent of 1,000 standalone homes, 800 to 1,000 standalone homes converted into Airbnbs. If you go, a motel's got 20 rooms, 1,000 houses divided by 20 is 50. So Rotorua essentially grew, or doubled the amount of motels we had. We used to have 50 roughly, we doubled. I went to a meeting the other night with the Airbnbers. They seem to think they shouldn't be paying rates because, you know, it's my little side hustle, it's my little business, it's what I do. But collectively, there's 1,000 of them. Essentially, it's 50 motels. As a motelier, from 2015 to 2020, my occupancy went from 89% after many years trying to get it up to there. And then it dropped down to about 72 from 2015 to 2019. 2019 was the busiest year we've ever had. So it was just trending down. And it can only be, you know, you can only guess that it's Airbnb. We didn't double the amount of tourists to the city. We might have gone up 5–10% over that period of time, but definitely the motels went down. My concern is Fenton Street and the likes of the other streets where the motels are. You, as a property owner, as a motelier, you can't invest enough money in the future. Like I'd like to rebuild my motel, but it's just too risky. It's you need some certainty of the numbers of the tourists. I'll have to essentially wait till the tourist numbers double again to take on that risk. So I think that's our problem with Fenton Street. A lot of properties just won't be rebuilt, and I'd love to see it look like, you know, Taupo, the waterfront, beautiful, nice buildings. But I don't think we're going to see that for quite a long time. So I think the rating the properties, I don't know whether 60 days or 30 days is the correct way to go, but definitely rating should be applied. Hopefully they'll take out some of the smaller properties, they'll go back into the rental pool, and we'll keep the larger properties, which the hotels don't cover at this point in time. Any questions?
Thank you very much. We do appreciate the feedback from both of you. Thank you for taking the opportunity to also provide us a written copy as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Bryce.
Cool, thank you.
I'd now like to invite Annie Judkins to make her submission. This is 218 in your submission files.
Tēnā koutou te whānau, ko Annie Judkins no te tokoro kei te aro anō. I've come up from Wellington for this submission. Thanks for not writing to me to let me know this was happening. I really appreciate your lack of communication. Excellent, just like the Wellington Council, so thank you very much. Luckily, I have ears on the ground who let me know. I have been coming to Lake Rotorua since about 27 years ago. I bought a house for my dementing, aggressive, misogynist father 6 years ago, but mainly for his wife, so that when she collapsed and died, we didn't find them later covered in maggots. He continued to be a misogynist after she died, and I have been left with a house at Lake Rotorua. I have maintained it fastidiously. I do not rent it out. I have showered there 6 times in 6 years. I don't shower, I swim. I flush the toilet once a week because I don't shit very often. I have been told that you're going to charge us $40,000 for a water system that we did not request. I do not get water supply from the City Council. I pay $8,000 a year for a water, sorry, I exaggerate, that's miscalculation. I pay $900 a year for water supply to my house. I pay $900 a year for electricity just to have a security sensor light on my house. I pay $2,500 in rates per year, which I only used for my recycling to be picked up, and rubbish. Well, even in Wellington, I put out a rubbish bag once a month. I've done some maths for you because I don't think your maths is very good, because I understand that your budget's been blown out by $20 million. I hope somebody's head is rolling for that, because that's bad maths. Can you please pull up your abacus and pull out a crayon, and I'll give you some really simple maths here. When I purchased the house, not the land, as you know, the land at Lake Rotorua is owned in perpetuity by Ngāti Pikiao. This, we didn't agree to, because we didn't agree to the sewage system anyway. It was foisted upon us, and at that time, it was $14,200. Over the 280 resident households in the last census, if we'd paid that off, it would have cost us $710 per year over 20 years. Now that you've blown your budget by $20 million, and I understand that you've put water into Lake Rotorua, which I don't have access to. I've never used a park in Rotorua. I've never used any services in Rotorua. I propose, and I suggest that you do your maths this way also, this blowout of $20 million needs to be spread across the whole of the Rotorua region, which at your last census was 23,766 households. That $20 million spread over 10 years would be, it's a one-off payment of $841.54. Over 10 years, it would be $84 extra a year, which most of us can afford. I'm personally been made redundant, thanks National Party. I'm 60 years old. My chances of getting re-employed are nil, close to nothing. I'm currently, if I believed in a God, I would start praying that my house burnt down. Because, Your Honour, last year, less than 1 year ago, you were planning an active retreat from Lake Rotorua. And now you want to foist upon us a $40,000 bill so we can be actively removed from your region. I do not think this is fair. I do not think this is just, and I do not support it in any way, shape or form. This needs to be spread evenly. Your budget blowout needs to be spread across every household in the Rotorua region and not foisted upon us. For my currently under $40,000, that would cost me for my one shower per year and probably my 6 flushes of the toilet per year. I don't think that's fair or reasonable. And I think that's enough. I do wash my clothes occasionally in summer, and I use brown water to water my garden. Ka kite. Kia ora.
Thank you very much, Annie. I'd now like to invite Tony Ramsden to make their submission. This is number 224 in your submission files.
Mayor Tapsell, City Councillors and Council staff, thank you for inviting me today. Well, you didn't invite me, but I found out about it today, so thank you for listening. My name's Tony Ramsden. I own a leasehold property at Lake Rotorua, but I do live in Wakatani. Today I'd like to make a comment about the overall proposed 10-year plan and then talk about the Rotorua sewage scheme. My background is in engineering within the pulp and paper industry at the Wakatani mill, and at that mill over my many years there I held many positions such as maintenance manager, production manager, lead team member, and worked on several of the projects at the mill, both in a management point of view as well as in a supervisory point of view. Currently, as you guys know, most ratepayers and middle low income earners are struggling with cost of living at the moment, paying their bills, suffering from high interest rates. The question that I'd like to ask the council, and I don't expect you to answer it now, obviously, but is your 10-year plan really lean and mean for these people and for all of us? You know, I don't think now is the time to spend up large or commit ratepayers for long-term debt at the moment. I really don't believe that, just on nice-to-have projects. You know, I understand maintenance has to be done and upkeep and so forth, but there is a lot of nice-to-have projects around. That's all I want to talk about the 10-year plan. I want to move more onto the Rotorua sewage scheme. My family has held leasehold properties at Rotorua since 1928. It's been a second home for 5 generations of my family. 2000, I purchased a property from my father and I moved the holiday home onto it and installed a new septic tank system complete with an environmental filter to meet the consent requirements at the time. In 2004, I received a letter stating our septic tanks be inspected for compliance and review. Rumours were already around at that stage about new sewage systems were coming at a later stage. 2009, a letter arrived requesting me to attend a public meeting to discuss a draft plan for the sewage systems at Rotorua. 2012, July, a letter arrived for a meeting at the local community hall there to discuss a plan for their draft number 2 plan. 2015, I received a brochure from the council with community meeting dates. 3 options were offered and costs of 7, 9 and 12K, including GST. They also highlighted a preferred option and so forth. Interesting, the conclusion paragraph states, sewerage for East Rotor, Edie and Rotorua communities has been a long journey. Little did they know what was still to come. March 2018, I received a letter stating the step systems for Rotorua have all been purchased and the reticulation network and mains contracts have been awarded for the Rotorua area. 2018, I received a letter from Ian McLean and Phil Thomas. I have these letters here, by the way. By Phil Thomas. The letter states, the General Manager of Infrastructure Rotorua Lakes Council advised Rotorua Lake Council on the 8th of March 2018, the team's aims were to complete the scheme as close as possible to the estimated cost of 35 million or 14,000 including GST per household. It also states that every effort will be made to achieve this. It also said Rotorua would be completed April 2019, and it was up and running at the end of 2019. 16th of July 21, I received another letter, an update, and I call this a strange letter, because it includes a table of costs based on the concept proposal adopted by the council in 2014, way back. But the cost now showed 16,241 for Rotorua, excluding GST, instead of the 12,000 including GST told us in 2015, and 14,000 including GST told us in 2018. It also states that the costs in the table included a 30% contingency, which may not cover forward inflation. So I've got to ask, what's the 30% contingency was there for? My mind really boggles. Some 15 years to do a 2-year project, massive time and cost overruns, much redo work happened, differences of figures over different years and letters. There's no question in my mind the whole sewage project was nothing but a mismanaged disaster for us. I heard stories of Rotorua costs were hit by COVID and rising lake levels. Well, funny, Rotorua was finished back in 2019. Contractors would have been paid out within months, materials the same, so Rotorua final cost should easily have been known and locked in by mid-2020. It's bizarre we find that the final Rotorua costs of $45,000 in the 10-year plan 4 years after Rotorua was finished. And I still haven't been told officially by the council. So the money's been but this fiasco is a council problem to deal with in-house, I think. I think it's best left for you guys to sort that mess out. The money's been wasted, it's spent, it's gone, eh? What to do? Council, I think, only's got 2 fair and reasonable options. One, charge the Rotorua and Rotorua ratepayers a cost of $14,000, including GST, identified back in May 2018, which was presented to the council and endorsed by the council with the insurance every effort would be made to achieve this. The balance must be spread over the total rates for the whole of the Rotorua district. It's the same as a rugby park upgrade or council building renewal or stormwater systems. The ratepayers pay for the balance, the individuals don't. The other option is just charge the Rotorua Edie ratepayers a connection fee from the tanks into our buildings, similar to a new property development, where the council/total ratepayers put in the system, the street works, everything else, and then the property owners only pay from the system into the house. So finishing up, you know, I've got to say, we all believe the council people. We all believe the letters, the discussions at various meetings with the council and engineers at the meetings. The statements of we will endeavour to keep costs at 14K, including GST. So we planned reluctantly, because none of us wanted the scheme, we planned reluctantly for a final cost of $15,000, including GST. If the outcome is we are to be charged 45K, I believe this to be unreasonable, unrealistic, and simply unfair, as many of our ratepayers, including myself, cannot afford this. I'm a pensioner now, I don't have much income. For me personally, I will have to make a decision and I'll probably sell up and end my time at the lakes. That's what it means. So thank you for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. We appreciate you taking the time to come in and share your story on this too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elected members, we don't have any other submitters present, so I suggest we take a break now until one arrives. Thank you.
Thank you.
So welcome Rory and Suzanne. You have 5 minutes when you're ready, and there will be a countdown timer just up here, so you can help to keep track of that. Otherwise, we thank you very much for coming in this morning to share your submission.
Okay.
Morena. I pass over to Susan, who's going to do the
Have they got a copy
Airbnb.
of this thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Have you got a copy?
You've got a
Yeah.
copy. Okay, thank you.
Take it as read, and Susan can just elaborate a little bit on that.
Well, I run it. He kind of helps. What I'm basically concerns me is if it was reduced to 60 days and not what we normally do throughout the year, within that 60 days, and roughly if it was 200 a night, that's about 12,000 for 2 months. That 12,000 wouldn't even cover our rates that are going up. And we have our own property, and we used to let the one that we owned, and we lived in it at the same time, and just let the upstairs because it was self-contained. And then we had the opportunity to purchase the house beside it, which meant we could have a separate house because it got to the stage where we thought it would be nice that they could have the house to themselves. So that's what we did. So we purchased the two together. Now, we have the 2 properties at the moment that we pay rates on anyway, which will get the 9% increase. But if, for example, we decided to only do the 60 days, it would be physically and financially crazy because it would cost, we worked out 19,000 to cover our 12,000 for 2 months. So, and that was just including our insurance and our rates for the 2 months, that we would actually be losing 7,000. So we physically wouldn't be making anything. And for us to do more than 2 months and pay the extra, some months you have no people, and like at Christmas, at the moment, we only have 1 couple coming at the end of this month, and next month there's only 2 that have got 1 night stays. So you could go 3 or 4 months like that, which is nothing. It doesn't even pay the rates for the week that they weren't there. So financially it would be ridiculous to carry on. We would probably end up selling the other property. We don't feel comfortable letting because we had rented previously about, what would it be, 15, 17 years ago, and had a terrible time trying to remove people that would not get out. So at our age, we don't really want that hassle again. And it's a hard job being an Airbnb because we're constantly there all day. I'm waiting around all day. I have the place perfect for them. When they arrive, they get a nice welcoming. I show them all around what is there and what isn't there, take them down to the lake. We talk about the lake. They sit and have a chat and tell them what they can see when they're in Rotorua, which they appreciate. A lot of people are overseas people, so they have no idea where to start. And 100% would say, we don't want to stay in the town because of the situation with emergency housing. So they come back. We have repeat people who'll book each year and they'll come back. And we do our best to make them very happy. So we usually get a 5-star review, and because of our communication and there for them, because we live next door. So we have a lot that can't speak English, and I can say, well, come in, and I can come and see what you want or don't, which they would like recommendations to. So it's not just a booking, that's it. We go over all times of the night. They might arrive at midnight, and you go over and welcome them. They might arrive at early hours of the morning. We go over and welcome them. And turn the heat pump on so it's warm, and just make it comfortable and nice and welcoming. And I think to lose that would be not just bad for us, but it would be bad for the people who enjoy a family home rather than a motel. So basically, that's it. That's a good time.
Thank you very much, Rory and Suzanne. Sorry, was there a final point you wanted to?
I'll just, as my other hat as manager of Age Concern Rotorua, I'd just like to very briefly comment. I did put a submission in around the pension housing, which I have some grave concerns about what will happen if the pension housing is leased to a community housing group, that the rents will go up, and also that there is no guarantees that the houses will actually be used for pensioners, not for anybody. And so those are my two concerns, and I think if you have my presentation there, that's what I'm concerned about at this stage. So option one, you people carrying on with how you are running the houses, but to upgrade the ones that aren't being lived in at the moment would probably be the best option for our pensioners in Rotorua. And at present there are 11,000 odd over 65s in New Plymouth and Rotorua. So, and that number is going to increase quite considerably over the next 10 years. So housing, although housing I know is a concern of the councils, housing for the elderly should also be a high priority.
Thank you very much. We appreciate both of the points that you have raised today. Thank you.
Is that it? Is it? Okay, thank you. All right. Please go around the room. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd now like to invite John Hazard to make their submission. This is 263 in your submission files. Welcome, John.
Your Worship, the Mayor and Councillors, I am here to speak to my submission on the 2024-2034 long-term plan, and specifically in reference to the targeted rate for the ratepayers connecting to the East Rotorua sewerage scheme. My name is John Hazard. I come from a background of mining operations and maintenance, which included the construction and maintenance of complex wastewater treatment plants and reticulation systems. I was a committee member, treasurer and then chairperson of the Lake Rotorua Community Association Incorporated during the 2016-2023 period. It was at this time that community was being consulted rather heavily on the benefits to our own health and that of Lake Rotorua by having our concrete septic tanks replaced with a new plastic septic tank and pump to take the treated discharge water from our sections and down to the neighbouring lake at Rotorua to be further treated and discharged onto their ground. The alternative to doing this was that for each ratepayer to obtain a resource consent from the regional council or to run an upmarket septic tank system as seen in many non-reticulated communities within New Zealand, especially those that are close to waterways. Our estimated cost to do that on a bulk purchase principle was approximately $18,000, including GST per property. Some, of course, were able to share the tank within little clusters. On Easter Monday 2017, a community meeting was held where council reps and the steering committee, led by Ian McLean, presented and promoted the costs and benefits of a step system at $14,100 GST inclusive, or $1,080 per annum over 25 years. So basically the community had to decide whether to go with the council reticulated system at the quoted $14,100 or per property, or with a new offset tank at the estimated $18,000 if their current wastewater treatment system did not comply with the EBOP resource conditions. As a committee, we were concerned that if the scheme did not come in on budget at the $35 million, our community would carry the cost burden of the entire overspend. So we called a meeting with council staff to a small meeting at Lake Rotorua and attended by Em McLean, chairperson of the project steering committee, Stavros Michael and Greg Manzano, our committee members and others. Your Stavros Michael gave us assurance that all the previous Rotorua Lakes water treatment projects had come in on budget, and because this one contained a contingency of 25%, it couldn't miss. One of our members asked what that meant, and Greg, who was responsible for the design and costings, responded to the effect that the absolute top cost would be $35 million and could be as low as 28, i.e. the $35 million contained a 25% contingency for uncertainty. Now, this is a very important point because that dialogue has changed somewhat latterly. That made absolute sense to us and became the amount that was approved in council resolutions later on. So we were reasonably happy that they could bring the project home on budget. Gee, a 25% contingency is unheard of in the commercial world. Moving forward from that meeting and through consultation with our members and the greater community, we were more comfortable with the reticulated scheme and paused further initiatives with regard offset and individual resource consents. It is important to note that in the RLC 17-18 annual budget, it was proposed that a target rate be struck, and it is pertinent that I read parts of the Lake Rotorua, Lake Rotorua Community Association verbal submission against that targeted rate. The first note was, we do not support the introduction of targeted rates in the 17-18 financial year. This submission should in no way be construed as an objection to the scheme. Basically what we're saying there was we want the scheme to go ahead, but we're not at that price. A proposal for a reticulated sewage scheme in our communities has been on the go for about 15 years. Over that time, residents have seen costs escalate from around $3,000 to over $14,000 today. I'm talking about, this is a submission we put into the resource consent, the LPT at that time, or not the LTP, but the annual plan. Another comment from that speech was, what is concerning are the rising costs brought about by unforeseen late changes to solutions and design, CIA implications, biolitic trials, etc., etc., etc. Your Worship, we would like to bring to Council's attention that it was indicated that should the cost to each ratepayer exceed $12,000, the community would be consulted on the specific question of affordability. As it appears that it is unlikely that the final costs will be as it appears that it is likely the final cost will greatly exceed this, we urge Council to explore alternative cost recovery methods which could distribute the overrun in a more equitable way. We were saying these things back in 2017. Sad, eh? Some 4 years later, after the wastewater treatment plant was running with Rotorua connected, in June 21, tender documents for the completion of the project at Rotorua were opened. And at that point, it must have become very obvious to Council that there was insufficient funds to continue the project to completion.
John, excuse me, sorry, we do have the written copy. Is there a final point that you wish to make?
Yeah, several.
Okay, sorry, we just have gone quite a bit over the 5 minutes. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Your worshipping councillors, your moral compass must dictate that you remove all reference to this capital repayment from the plan until the new government's Three Waters initiative is established.
Thank you very much.
And of course,
John.
you've read my other, my written submission, and the note that you have in front of you, of course, is just my verbal speech.
And thank you very much for giving us both, and we appreciate you coming and
And
sharing
just
this
as a bit of
information with us.
housekeeping, that has come to my attention that a large number of people haven't been notified of their times to appear here. And that is again quite sad. These people went to the effort of actually putting in submissions, but they hadn't been notified from council people as to a time to appear. I was. In fact, it was off. I got about 3 phone calls, or 3 emails, I should say. And then this Monday, just gone, I was phoned and asked if I could delay my presentation until today because you wanted to cancel Monday's sessions. That's pretty sad. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And we have contacted everyone. We've double-checked, and we're just using the contact information that they've given us, unfortunately.
Excuse me, no, you haven't. We have a lot of evidence.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
I'd now like to invite Ngairi Nelson to make their submission.
Morena. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I am here to speak to the outrageous cost blowout of Lake Rotorua and Lake Rotoiti sewerage scheme. My name is Ngairi Nelson, and I've lived at the beautiful Lake Rotorua for 12 years on a leasehold property. My question that I would like to ask really is, what is reasonable? The Oxford Dictionary definition to have sound judgment, be fair and sensible. Affordability and assurances. As you have previously heard, we, as ratepayers at Lake Rotorua, were consistently assured by the Rotorua Lakes Council that the sewerage system would cost $14,000 per household. We trusted those assurances. In my household, we considered that that was the price. On the strength of that trusted, consistent price assurance, we agreed to have the step system installed after consultation of its location. Of course, our compliance was in fact forced in that if a reticulated system goes past your gate, you are legally obliged to hook up to it. Failure to do so, we were told, would put us in breach of our leases, and our house would be red stickered, our home would be considered uninhabitable, and we would be forced to leave. Very intimidating, and maybe not quite so reasonable. As we were consistently assured that the council would and could make it happen within the financial envelope, we signed up, trusting the council's assurances. As another submitter has asked, when have you ever bought anything when you didn't know what price you were going to pay? A reasonable question. We trusted the assurance given by the council. Community's wellbeing and welfare. Some in our community believe that their trust in their council has been so completely shattered that they cannot see the point in making a submission. They feel disengaged, disempowered, and their trust is broken. My understanding is that the elected members of the Rotorua Lakes Council have a moral responsibility to the care and the well-being and welfare of the community that elected them. How does it demonstrate awareness and care for their community when many, like myself, whose income is $28,000 per annum, are expected to pay for the astronomical financial blowout and still claim that the council is maintaining our well-being and welfare? The consequent emotional and financial toll is not reasonable. I and the community know that it was the last council that created and perpetuated this mess. However, I believe still that the Rotorua Lakes Council will do the morally correct thing and defer the Rotomā and Rotoiti sewage scheme from the long-term plan so that the council can find out what is going on and find an affordable and equitable solution. Ngā mihi nui. Thank you.
Ngā mihi nui. Thank you very much, Ngāri, for your submission. I'd now like to invite Makaire to make a submission on behalf of the Kauai Urupa Cemetery Trust Board.
Ka tira, kia ora tātou I roto I tō tātou whare he mihi tēnei kia koutou, kei aku huanga o Ngāti Whakaue o Ngāti Rangiwewehi tēnā koutou. Kei ngā mema o te kaunihera, tēnā koutou, me huri ki te reo prawa kia marama katohia nei tātou ki ngā kōrero. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and respected members of the Rotorua Lakes Council, we gather here today about the Kauai Urupa to honour a place that holds immense historical, cultural and communal significance. This sacred ground, part of the Rotohukahuka E Block, was designated in 1884 by the 15 visionary Ngāti Whakaue tupuna or ancestors. They set aside 20 acres for the Urupa, ensuring a resting place for our ancestors and future generations. Firstly, we celebrate the enduring legacy of collaboration. In 1919, a statute was enacted to establish a board of trustees to oversee this Urupa. This board, comprising equal representation from Ngāti Whakaue descendants and county council members, was officially formed in 1923. For over a century, this partnership has thrived, governed by rules and regulations and/or tikanga that have adapted over time yet stayed true to their original purpose. This model of cooperation is a testament to what we can achieve when we work together with mutual respect and shared responsibility. Secondly, we recognise the inclusive nature of Kauai Urupa. This cemetery has served as a burial ground not only for the descendants of the original Ngāti Whakaue grantees, but also for the general public. This inclusivity embodies our community's values of unity and respect for all. It reflects our commitment to providing a sacred resting place for everyone, a place where all can find peace and connection to the land and their ancestors. Thirdly, we must address the pressing challenge of space. With approximately 80% of the cemetery's area occupied or pre-allocated, and the general public burial area nearly fully utilised, we face an urgent need for more burial space. This challenge calls for the same foresight and collaborative spirit that guided our ancestors, mai tupuna. We must plan and act decisively to ensure that future generations have a space they need and they need to honour their loved ones. In closing, let us draw inspiration from the rich legacy of Kauai Urupa. This sacred ground is a living symbol of our history, our values and our collective resilience. As we face the challenges ahead, remember and planning our future, we can ensure that Kauai Urupa remains a cherished part of our people for generations to come. E hika mā tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa.
Kia ora, councillors. My role here today is as Secretary for the Kauai Urupa Cemetery Trust Board, and thank you, Mihaere, for that very contextual background of how the Urupa sits in the Rotorua landscape. The Ngāti Whakāwi members of the Urupa Trust Board are concerned that the long-term plan does not cover for the cemetery development that will be required for Rotorua within the next 10 years. There is constraints on the current space, and within the next 4 to 5 years, that space for public burials will be exhausted. The Council does have a property for cemetery developments, and the early work that was done on that was shown that a figure of around $1.1 million in current or potentially 3 years from now value would be the amount required to invest to develop that cemetery to get it started, with the potential for at least 10 years of burial space from that, with the whole site covering at least 50 years of capacity and also having other areas that could be used for alternative types of burials, such as natural burials. So the Ngāti Whakāwi members of the Trust Board would request that the Council make provision in the LTP for cemetery development, hopefully no later than year 4, so that this piece of work can get done for a strategic asset that the city needs. Thank you very much. Ngā mihi nui.
Ngā mihi nui kia korua. Thank you very much, Rob, and also Mihaere for taking the time to share this concern with us.
Nā koe.
I'd now like to invite Barbara Stahl to come forward and make her submission. And this is 231 in your submission files.
Before I start, I'm very nervous and I hope I don't break down and upset. Your Worships, councillors, good morning. My name is Barbara Stahl and I have lived at Rotorua on leasehold land as a leasee for the last 3.5 years. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on the East Rotorua Sewage Scheme. As you councillors are coming to the end of listening to numerous speakers covering many subjects up for discussion in the long-term plan, we are, on the other hand, are trapped in the Rotorua Sewage Scheme, only just beginning our long, difficult journey. Having a 45,000 plus possibly 65,000 K debt dumped on us by this council without a written warning or true understanding of the serious and frightening consequences of this decision to us, the ratepayers at Rotorua. I am 80 years old. I cannot get a mortgage. I cannot borrow on the house. I cannot sell because of the huge escalations of cost to this sewerage scheme. Councillors, you were voted onto this council board because of your genuine beliefs that you could and would improve so many of the unfortunate situations that have beset the Rotorua area. With a flick of the wrist or a nod of the head, you have voted to pass this East Rotorua Sewage Scheme debt to a select few. May I remind you, I am one of many ratepayers who cannot get a mortgage, cannot borrow on their house, and cannot sell. How does this unbelievable debt foisted on us become more balanced. By this council stepping back, which means removing the sewage scheme from the long-term plan to enable you to find a more realistic, equitable approach to paying this debt. As an aside, I have telephoned the company called InnoFlow Technology in Auckland, who supply the step tanks to the Rotorua Council. The contact number is 027 474 9124. I spoke with Selma. My question was the warranty on these step tank units. The main holding tank has 2 years. The essential pump unit has 10 years. These units are supposed to last given their essential use. What assurance does the council have in continuity of availability of parts and at what cost? We are now 5 to 7 years since these step tanks have been installed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barbara, for making your submission and raising that valid point.
Thank you.
Elected members, our next submitter is at 10:55, so we will take a 10-minute break now until then. We do think perhaps they felt their submission was covered by a previous submitter when Arapeta presented. So we will take our morning tea break, and if you could please return just before 11:15 when we expect the next submitter to arrive. Thank you. Back, we will resume our long-term plan hearings. Just like to remind everybody it is being live streamed, so please have your mobile phones on silent. And the first submitter I'd like to welcome up is Alicia Mitchell. Kia ora, and just checking, is this also Te Komati Nui o Ngāti Whakaue?
Aye.
And would you like to do your submissions together?
Aye, that was the original intention.
Okay, ka pai. Because you've got two, we'll have 10 minutes for you.
Oh.
So there will be, if you want it, if you need it, and there will be a timer just over here, so you can keep track of that time as well. Otherwise, nau mai ki tō whare, ki tēnei kaunihira o Rotorua. Welcome to your council, to this building, and kei a koe, tēnei tāpaitanga. Over to your submission now. Thank you.
Kia ora. Tēnā tātou katoa, ko Alicia Mitchell tōku ingoa. So I'm a trustee of Komati Nui o Ngāti Whakaue, and with me I have Auntie Pauline, who is our General Manager of our operations, and our General Manager Manu Araki of our Taiao unit. So, Te Komati Nui o Ngāti Whakaue, we are the Whakaue entity that is going through the settlements of our Waitangi Tribunal claims, our outstanding ones, and we represent all 28 hapu of Ngāti Whakaue. So I'd like to start with that. Ngāti Whakaue gifted this township, as we all know, and we would like to keep that at the forefront of this council's minds in terms of partnerships going forward into the future. And we would like to highlight that Ngāti Whakaue does not have a formal partnership with Rotorua Lakes Council at this current state. And even though that we do have the Te Tātou o Te Arawa and Te Arawa partnerships. So Whakaue seek a formalised and refreshed partnership between Whakaue and this council, including commitment to supporting Māori and Māori-supported legislation, including Te Tiriti o Waitangi and the Fenton Agreement, and ensuring that our Māori are retained. We seek a plan as to how this council will work together with Ngāti Whakaue in achieving and implementing the Fenton Agreement. In historic times, we know that this has been breached and not formally acknowledged, and a lot of the clauses of the Fenton Agreement have been left out. So we do seek a plan together to ensure this happens. Further, we expect this council to support the retainment of Māori wards within Aotearoa and specifically here in Rotorua. And I note that our council did not sign the letter addressed to government with many local and regional leaders in support of Māori wards. Furthermore, including the Waitangi Tribunal settlements, as I said, we're also mandated to undertake taiao matters. And Ngāti Whakaue wants to see this council be a leader in protecting our environment. Historically, this has not been the case, and with the degradation of our streams, our rivers and our lakes and our land. Ngāti Whakaue villages like Ngāpuna and Ohinimutu are suffering at the costs of past decisions. It is not just affecting Rotorua, but also Ngāti Whakaue in Makitu and our Te Arawa whanaunga that share the kaituna. Us as Māori, we assess everything all together, not just singly like councils have been known to in the past. For example, something that's happening here at the moment is that this council has requested to take more water from our Tupuna Springs for municipal water take for Rotorua. But for Whakaue, we've seen this, and we've seen that the infrastructure for our water is actually leaking the majority, not majority, but a big portion of our water. So why would we approve for more water to be taken when the infrastructure that we were managing is not up to scratch? That the infrastructure of the wastewater treatment plant is also leaking into our streams, and we can't drink from them anymore. So that is our historic use taken away from us. And because of these decisions, Rotorua is polluted. We can't can barely swim in there. Ohinemutu do not swim in our waters anymore. And then that flows down the Kaituna all the way to Maketu, where the estuary is one of the most polluted estuaries throughout Aotearoa. So we're imploring you to working together with mana whenua, with Ngāti Whakaue to ensure that this is improved. Yeah, so going forward, partnership, proper partnership, a statement that this council supports Te Tiriti o Waitangi and supports protecting our environment for future generations, because we're not going to see the fruits of any decisions that are made in the next 10 years towards our environment. Those will be our mokopuna. That's all from me. If you want to add anything, whānau.
Yes, ko Pauline Tangohauhau. I'd just like to add that I would like to see council really look at this housing issue that we have here. I know there's a lot of developments going on, and if Kāinga Ora are successful in doing the developments that they're doing, that our people are housed first. Those ones that are being shipped in here, they need to go home. And also, just another add-on to the, if the Māori wards go, Māori entities, land trusts are the biggest ratepayers in Rotorua, and I would like council to support a Māori Ratepayers Association so that we have a bigger say in what actually goes on in our city.
And on top of the rates, Regional Council are currently doing a Māori rates remission policy, which benefits Māori and actually looks at how Māori structures and land is managed, and ensuring that our rates are reflected properly within their system. So we really implore you to also look at joining their policies, because it also doesn't make sense that Regional Council and Lakes Council don't work together in that instance.
Oh, and just another thing to add on, I'd like the council to consider the reserves that they actually manage right now, and with our geothermal resources in any case, and see how we can work together to look at either handing back those assets or co-managing. I sort of think about the Polynesian Spa. You know, for Ngāti Whakaue, that's lost income over years and years and years. So as part of our claim, we're actually looking at that. Mm-hmm. So I encourage the council to think about how we might work together in addressing some of those things around our freshwater and geothermal.
Mm-hmm. And these are conversations that can start now. They don't have to wait for a tribunal hearing to take place. We can go above and beyond that and start working together now. And on top of that, I'd like to also put forward what we had in our submission, that the Ohinemutu development plan needs to be activated, put through council. This has been a project that's been going on since 2019 and lost traction in 2020. We understand because of COVID-19 that was part of it, but also Te Mana Tōpū Hau Kāinga or Ohinemutu, a representative group, put forward and asked for that plan to be implemented multiple times post-COVID-19. And that plan was enacted because of the Rotorua lakefront development and the effects that that would have on Ohinemutu. And also the health and safety of Ohinemutu is of paramount as well, which is included in this plan. Because for some reason, Ohinemutu is severely left out in health and safety, especially around the ruapeka and the fencing of public spaces. As for Whakaue, we are very generous in our manaakitanga, and we take in all visitors who come in to Rotorua, and this council often uses our marae and our pā to highlight Rotorua and bring visitors here. So we do expect that there is a manaaki from this council to uplift and rejuvenate Ohinemutu as well. Ka pai.
Minute 80.
Ka pai.
All right, if there's nothing else, ka pai. Kia ora tātou. Thank you.
Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou. Thank you very much for making a submission on behalf of Te Komiti Nui o Ngāti Whakaue.
Kia ora.
Elected members, our next submitters are not here, so we will take a 10-minute break and resume at 11:40. If you're ready to do your submission now, we can welcome you. Okay. Elected members, this is Linda Drudy Malcolmson, and she will also be doing her submission on behalf of Stephen Whittaker. So that's hearing 240 and 241, if you wish to pull up their submission. Welcome, Linda. You have we'll give you 10 minutes because you're doing the two, if you need it. And we'll just have a countdown here and a small ding afterwards. And this meeting is being live streamed as well.
Thank you.
We thank you for taking the time to be here in person, and when you're ready.
Okay, kia ora everyone. I just had to drop my partner at a specialist appointment. It was brought forward, unfortunately, so he's asked me to read his submission on his behalf. So this is from Stephen Clive Whittaker. We moved to Rotorua due to severe illness and a limited life expectancy. I was deemed unable to work due to this. Things such as price hikes can cause undue stress and add to my illness. I am soon to retire, but for the past few years have only received around $170 per week from the government as my partner works part-time. Part of this payment consists of a $2 accommodation supplement, which is supposed to cover lease, rates and insurance. I think it is completely unfair of the council to put a financial burden onto ratepayers and ask you to think long and hard about what you are doing. Thank you. So that was not 5 minutes. Okay, so just for my one, we, along with a lot of other people, purchased our property at the end of 2018. So the only paperwork we had at that time to give our lawyer was a few pages we have here from the previous owner. Amongst all these papers was the cost of, or the proposed cost of the sewerage scheme. Our lawyer looked into the costs, and through all of the avenues that she was able to look at, we were told, as is written on this piece of paper that we were given, that the estimated cost would be $14,100, including GST per household. Now, we allowed for that. We did not think it would be much higher. And as far as I am aware, in the consumer rights, an estimate can be 10 to 15% higher than what is estimated, but that does not equate to 45 to 88,000 that is proposed at the moment. I also see in these papers that the Rotorua No. 1 Corporation agreed to the installation of the system on their leasehold properties. And as we do not own the land, we only own the dwelling, and this system is being inserted into the ground. Under our lease, if we wish to terminate our lease, you remove your buildings, but you would not be removing the septic tank system. And what would happen if people started to do that? It would disrupt the entire scheme. So I think also that the Rotorua No. 1 should be liable for part of the cost, not just the people that are paying the rates. That's just my opinion. And I also think that the project manager, whomever it is, should be personally held to account for allowing such a preposterous blowout of costs. I do not know of any organisation that would allow such an extreme variation. You can't blame COVID and you can't blame change of governments or anything like that. It's just an error somewhere along the way, and to me it looks as though the bills weren't paid when they should have been paid, or something major has gone wrong. And on my second note, I would like to just say that when we pay our rates, all we have out there is a little bit of a footpath, and we don't have toilets at the moment, but and just rubbish collection. So we're paying the rates for the whole of the Rotorua area for facilities that we don't use, And I think also that in that case, the cost of this should be spread equally over all ratepayers, because why should we have to pay for something that we don't use? So therefore, it is only fair that it's spread throughout all of them. And I'd like to know what the council, there was nothing in the long-term plan about what they have planned for Rotorua at all. So it would be nice to know if you haven't forgotten us that live out there. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Linda, and we appreciate you being here in person to make that submission, and also on behalf of Stephen, we wish him well.
Thank you.
Thank you. We now welcome Elizabeth Ann Pennington, and this is the submission number 243, if you wish to bring it up in your files. Welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa, na mihi nui kia koutou katoa, ko Liz Pennington Sokowingoa. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you. Yeah, thank you. Just acknowledge that's my honey sitting behind me up there, and he's going to speak next, and also my mokopuna Harata, who's come just to support the nanny and the koro in our discussions with you. Important for her to see the process, eh? So my name is Liz. We purchased our home at Lake Rotorua 17 years ago. My husband has a lifelong love affair with Lake Rotorua, having come here as a wee tamariki, and it is a place he holds dear in his heart. We're part of a supportive, hardworking and resilient community of people who contribute to the well-being of our own. We get tired of it sometimes of hearing that we're resilient. Maybe we're tough, but we are weary. We are weary at the moment. I'm a nurse, I'm a wellbeing practitioner, and I'm a critical incident responder, so that's my mahi. And I wish to speak to that area specifically and to just speak from my heart in terms of the concerns that I see amongst the people that I live with. We know that navigating uncertainty elicits the stress response. When we're holding things that aren't certain, when we're not sure what is to happen, when we have a sense that things are happening outside of our control, that not knowing has a very significant impact on our well-being and on our mental health, and certainly can place us in a position where we feel we have little opportunity to exercise any sense of mana motuhaki in our lives and work. Psychological trauma is defined as any single event or any series of events that have the potential to overwhelm the normal coping mechanisms of an individual. So any single event, any series of events. There's certainly been series of events if you look at our lake levels, the cyclones that we've all endured, just the ongoing impacts of whakaari as we think of, our local whānau who lost people. There's been a lot, there's been a lot. So when we think about events and situations such as the one we find ourselves in, it is my belief that people are significantly psychologically distressed and anguished by what is happening. Mental health, or te taha hinenaro, is an important part of who we are, part of that whole holistic kind of sense of who we are, and it is the current sense of hopelessness amongst some, prolonged experience of anxiety and distress that fly red flags for me. So I would want you to be aware of that. We've endured the flooding and its impacts, as I said. We now endure the news to us of the updated contribution to be made, which for us, in terms of our planning, is triple what we had thought we would be required to contribute. The impact means for many of our community that their sense of safety and security has been reduced. People fear that they may not be able to plan for their future, or that the planning that they have done is now insufficient to meet the need, that the plans that they've got are basically no longer viable, and that they're not going to be able to afford to live day to day. For those of us who do reading in this space, we think about some of the work of Stephen Covey or Kurt Lewin, who each talk about this idea of circles of influence and control. And today, when I'm sitting here, I'm kind of signalling to you, I guess, that there's a sense for many of us that our ability to exercise some control over our lives is feeling diminished at this point. The communication and process regarding the changes to what we're expected to pay is causing distress and mental anguish, and that isn't okay. People aren't okay. It says a lot about who we are as a community, how we look after those who are vulnerable and those who experience disadvantage. It says much more than many other things. How do we look after those, our children, our elderly, the unwell? The community that I'm part of has an average income of $23,000 a year. That doesn't provide much of an opportunity to increase income when you're an older person or you're someone living with an experience of illness. So how do they meet the increased expense? I respectfully suggest that there are issues of health, wellbeing and safety here for our community that need to be acknowledged and attended to. I certainly have some thoughts as to what I think you could do. I seek a clear commitment to resolve the issues in a timely manner and in a manner which restores people's sense of mana and the reality of the ongoing psychological distress they are experiencing. The Local Government Act does require you to promote social, economic, cultural and environmental well-being and safety. This process doesn't feel like one of promotion to me currently. It could be and it should be. Kia ora tātou, thank you for listening.
Ngā mihi nui ki a koe. Thank you very much, Liz. I'd now like to invite Fenton Pennington to make their submission.
Good afternoon. As my wife said, lived in Lake Rotorua since 2007. And I had the pleasure of experiencing this beautiful region as a younger child, and was very drawn to it, with both how beautiful it was and how it felt, which led me to being able to purchase here, and I did. As you're aware, the land is managed by Rotorua Number 1, and I'm a leaseholder, paying a lease for there. And as part of that, we're also required to have insurance for the property and make sure we pay the rates for the property. If I default on any of these, it's a breach of my lease. And that can obviously have a big impact. When you combine the rates, the insurance, the lease, I'm looking at annually just short of $13,000 a year just for those components without including any other aspects of life, like food. So I need to come up with around $250 a week just to meet those three things. I currently do 2 jobs at the moment. As you're aware, we have one of our granddaughters living with us, which has required me to get a second job. My core job in Rotorua, I get $26 an hour for that, and for my second job I get minimum wage. And with having a granddaughter, I don't have much more capacity to increase my ability to work more than what I'm currently doing. As my wife said, this then starts to play on your mind and create stresses, which then can flow into your family, how you interact. So I know it's said to be targeted, but from what I see, this entire region gets to enjoy those lakes, and not only this region, this country gets to enjoy those lakes. I have no problem with us ensuring that we improve the quality that there are other solutions to this funding that can be thought of, whether that be for events that are held. There's a component tacked onto that that can go back into our region, and things that can be thought of that are not only just for this scheme, but when the scheme is paid off, they then can flow on into other things to improve our region and not have a community feel like they're isolated and having to struggle and bear this themselves. So I would hope that maybe some imaginative solutions could come up with to help us fund this. And I also don't understand how this payment scheme would be impacted by if someone chose to build there now. Does that then mean that all of us get a slight reduction and then they take on their portion as well? And if that is the case, then how does that impact for the development of the region and people looking to move here or build, or Rotorua number 1 looking to undertake some things that they might be looking to do out there and that? So for me, I see this has multiple implications regionally and right down to individual people, and it's also going to be intergenerational with how you're proposing that this, if it's put onto rates, and for how long it will take to pay off. So it's not only us now directly it's impacting, we're talking about in the future generations. So thank you for letting me come and speak today.
Thank you very much, Fenton. We appreciate you coming along and sharing that with us. It is about the future generations. Sounds like. Okay. We will adjourn now and we will complete our hearings for today to be resumed on the 31st of May. That is an afternoon session and we will see you then. Thank you. And I'll just very quickly close us with a karakia. Kia whakeiri ai te tapu, kia wāte ai te ara, kia turuki whakataha ai, kia turuki whakataha ai. Haumie, hui e, tae ki e.